If you're looking for the best Battlefield 6 settings for console players, I've got you guys covered. We're going to go through everything to make your game run optimally. Starting with accessibility, you're going to see menu narration, turn that off. Subtitles, you can leave that on if you like. Go down to master volume, leave it at 100. Tinnitus SFX volume, we're going to turn that all the way down. That's a ringing sound that's going to impact your ability to hear what's happening around you. And some people just find it very, very annoying in itself. So you're going to want to go down to color profiles next. And if you want to adjust these, you can. Really, this is a situation where if you want to make things a little bit clearer for your vision, this is an option for you. You can go over to the custom setting here and you can start to change things around to help find a color balance that pops more. In my opinion, I don't really see this necessary for most people, but there are some people who may benefit from this. So if you are one of those people, you can go ahead and change that. Otherwise, I would probably just leave it as default for now. Next, we've got world brightness. I would leave that the same depending on if you've got an HDR display or not, but really, I mean, it should be fine unless you need to specifically adjust anything there. Next, you want to go to camera effects and you want to go to world motion blur and you're going to crank that all the way down. And you're going to want to crank weapon motion blur all the way down. And the reason for that is it's going to add extra blur to your movements and to your weapon, which is not going to help if you want clarity when playing. Next, you want to go down to camera shake amount. You want to decrease that all the way as well, as it's going to just obstruct your view, right? And 50 is the lowest you can go here, but it's going to make a huge difference. Next, we have reduce sprint camera bobbing. And if you, again, want clarity when you're playing the game, you want to turn that on. It's going to allow you to see more of what's happening. Next, you want to go to chromatic aberration. You want to turn that off. It's only going to impact your visibility. It's going to add color fringing or blurring at the edges of your screen. It's something you really don't want. Maybe in an immersive game, but not in this case. Lastly, we have infantry crosshair projection. If you turn this off, the crosshair will be stable at all times. I personally find this useful, although some people may prefer the default setting. In my opinion, turn this off. It's going to look a lot better. It's going to be consistent, and you're going to find that your aim will probably be a little bit better because it's not bobbing around the entire time. Next, we're going to go down to controls. Under accessibility controls, you're going to want to go all the way down to skip revive. And a big thing with skip revive is you have to hold it typically to make yourself skip the revive. In this case, if you just press a button, it'll skip the revive, which I personally prefer. And for request to revive, I would leave that as a toggle, as it's just easier to press it to engage it, press it to disengage it, rather than, you know, the whole situation with having to hold it the entire time. And that does it for accessibility settings. Next, we're going to want to go to controller setting and we're going to want to turn off controller vibration. Yes, the reason you're going to do that is because it does impact your aim. You'll find you play a lot better when your controller isn't shaking, and especially in this game, when you take footsteps, they shake as well. And then we're going to want to go down to adaptive triggers, weapon fire, and adaptive triggers, weapon zoom. And we're going to turn down that impact where it's not going to give you the adaptive trigger sensation, which again will impact your ability to play because you're going to have to compress those triggers more and you're going to have some resistance. It's great for immersion, but really in a multiplayer competitive setting, it doesn't make sense to have it. Now, lastly, we're going to want to go down to tutorials and to hints. Now, if you feel like you are comfortable with Battlefield, I would turn all this stuff off because it's just going to clutter your screen. And especially in the case of when you're playing a game where it's going to bring up the controls of the vehicle, if you're already comfortable with that stuff and you already know how to play, hey, just turn all this stuff off because you're going to feel a lot better when you're playing without all this stuff coming up on your screen as far as how to control the vehicle or whatever it may be. So that's one option for you. But if you're new to the game and you need a little more time, you can always keep that on. It's just a suggestion to clean up your HUD display. Under gameplay, you want to go to vertical look settings, and there are a few things that you could change here. Personally speaking, I leave them all the same. The one thing I might recommend that you change is the inverting vertical flight for aircraft. I really only recommend you change this if you prefer to have the aircraft go up when you push up, but otherwise it's set to pushing down as liftoff and pushing up as going down, so it inverts it. Again, this is very much a preference thing. And as well as these other things go, it's a preference thing. If you want to push up and you look down and you push down and you look up, turn these settings on. Otherwise, if you want it to play as normal, keep them off. But that pretty much does it for vertical look settings. I just wanted to visit that flight, that vertical flight aircraft setting. I think that one you might want to turn off as it's going to make your gameplay a little more consistent with how the gun moves as well as other vehicles. Next, we're going to want to go to capture area outline. Honestly, this is a situation where if you want a cleaner HUD, you might want to turn this off. Again, if you're comfortable with the game and you already know what to expect. Otherwise, I would leave it on. It'll just help you know where you can be to capture the area. Personally, I keep it on just so I know what's going on. Next, we want to go down to infantry settings. Guys, if you want a faster aim sensitivity, which you should so you can make quick moves, especially when you're in a gunfight, you want to turn this up. 40 is quite slow. If you find this too fast, then turn it down. It'll go slower. But if you find it too slow, then you might want to turn this up to at least 55. I find that to be a safe ground, but I would even argue if you're really good at shooters and you're familiar with shooters and you like a fast sensitivity, I would look at 60 and even maybe 70. But for me personally, 55 is a good spot. And the more you get used to faster sensitivities, the better you'll play because you're able to turn very, very quickly. Important to note, there's also a firing range in this game. So you're going to be able to come in here and you can test out your weapons. You can test out your aim sensitivity. So this is something that you guys can do to check in and out of your settings. So really, if you want to go back in, you can check your settings and there you are. You can change all your settings here while also on the fly coming back to the game and being able to see how it plays for you. So definitely take advantage of the firing range. And that's all I would change under infantry. And then I would move down all the way to vehicles. And again, for vehicle aim sensitivity, I would boost that up as well. So you're able to turn your camera very quickly. Probably 50 on this, I would say, and then just adjust it on the fly as you see fit. Then we have helicopter control assist. If you want to be able to play this game and not have to worry about hovering with the helicopter, then you're going to want to turn this on. The helicopter control assist will basically allow your helicopter to hover automatically, and this will give you a little bit more control in a case where you may not be familiar with the vehicles. Now, eventually you should probably turn this off and get used to it because you probably have more control in that sense, but if you want to simplify it, this is a great thing to turn on. And for the rest of these, I just leave them off. Now, under aim assist, I probably just leave everything as is. I mean, unless you really prefer an aim input curve from a previous Battlefield game, because in here you can basically adjust it to 2042, or you can adjust BF1, BF4, BF3, BF Bad Company 2, Battlefield Bad Company, and there's linear. Personally speaking, I did standard, but if you prefer the infantry aim input curve of those other games, then you might want to test those out as well. Everything else is set to 100 already, so that's great. And that's all I would do under aim assist. Now, next we're going to go to the controller settings. This is a very, very important one, guys. You're going to want to go to controller settings, and then you're going to go into controller settings, and you're going to want to go all the way down to uniform infantry aiming, and you want to turn this off. And the reason you want to turn this off is it's going to slow your aiming down. You want to be really quick. You don't want to wait for an acceleration. If you turn this off, it'll move as quickly as you want. If it's on, it moves slow at first, and then it goes quicker as you keep pushing the stick out. So this is more ideal if you want more control. And if you've got that off, you really don't need to change anything else here. Obviously, again, there are settings for aim input curve, but we discussed that previously. Lastly, I'd go down to zoom, and there's a steady scope option. Basically, when you are aiming down the sights with a sniper, you typically have to click in the left stick and you got to hold it to steady your scope. If you turn this off, it's going to be a toggle and it's a little bit less force on your left finger, or your left thumb, I should say, and then you're able to aim a little bit more calm and controlled. So I would turn that off unless you really like that option to be there as a hold. After you've done that, we're going to go down to the graphics tab, and this is a very important tab as well. Currently, we are set to auto balance for performance preset. If you want the highest frame rate, which means the lowest input latency, you're going to want to change this to performance mode. This is going to give you higher frame rates. This is going to give you less latency. Although it is going to bring down the fidelity a bit, it's worth the trade-off because you will play a lot better as far as having that advantage of getting more frames and having a lower latency. Now, it's important to clarify that if you are on an Xbox Series S, there is no performance mode. If you're on an Xbox Series X, you do have this option. If you're on a base PS5, you have this option. And if you're on a PS5 Pro, which this is what I'm playing on, you're going to have this option. It's just going to look even better. Now, next, we're going to want to come down to sharpness. There is quite a bit of sharpening in Battlefield 6. So you may want to turn this down, although if you are happy with the way it looks, I would just leave it the same. Some people do not like the added sharpness. Some people are more than fine with it. This is really a preference thing. Personally speaking, 50 is fine. If you wanted to turn it down a smidge to like a 40, I would say that's fine as well, but it really is a preference thing in this case. Next, we're going to camera settings. We got field of view. We're going to want to crank this all the way up to 120. Now, there is instances where people might like to play it at a lower field of view, but boosting this field of view just lets you see more on screen at a time. If it is lower, you are going to see less, and it's also going to feel like you're moving a lot slower, even though you're not, but you're going to see less on screen, so there could be an enemy in your sight that you would have seen otherwise that you can't see at a lower field of view. So I usually recommend at least 100, but ideal is maxing it all the way up. But find your comfort zone, find what works for you. The third person field of view, you want to crank that up all the way as well. It's not set to 83 by default, but I've already changed it, so that's just something that you want to change as well. Now after that, we want to go all the way down to Vignette. We want to turn this off as well. As you can notice on screen, it literally darkens the corners of your screen. Turn that off. It's just going to ruin your visibility. Next, we've got interfaces and HUDs. Now, again, this is a situation where it depends on how comfortable you are with Battlefield. You could turn off some of these things and they will allow your screen to be much clearer. Personally speaking, again, I don't find it to be overly obnoxious as far as the HUD goes in this game. So if you want to turn them off, turn them off. Look at what you want to turn off. Personally speaking, I think keep them all on. It's not that bad as far as the HUD goes. But I do got to throw that out there because I know some people are really crazy about having very clean HUDs. Next, we've got icons and indicators, and you're able to adjust icon intensity. If you didn't want to turn off all those HUD elements, you can turn it down, which will make them less intense, which are a little more transparent. You can even go into HUD icons and you can adjust opacity and all these other things. Personally, again, I left it the same, but if you want to adjust those things, you can. And we're going to want to go into crosshairs and indicators next. This is a really important one, right? As you can see with the crosshairs, it is white. And when it's white, especially in snowy regions, it's going to be hard to see your crosshairs in some cases. So what you want to do is you want to turn up your crosshair intensity so you can really make it intense that you can see it. And then you might even want to change your crosshair colors. For crosshair colors, if you find the white is not visible enough, even after turning up the intensity, I would recommend you go and take a look at the blue color, the green color, aqua, or yellow. Possibly pink if you want, just because it's not common that you're going to have a pink element on screen. So maybe even pink would be ideal. For crosshair thickness, you can even make it thicker. And the thicker you make it, the easier it is to see. And as you can see with the dot and the thickness, it's changing. So I would put on thick if you really want to be able to see the crosshairs really well. For hit indicator, I would turn up the intensity as well for visibility. Now next, we're going to want to go over to audio settings. We've got master volume, sound effects, music, and I would turn the music down to about 30, possibly even off. In my case, I prefer the music off all the way. I find it distracting. I find it takes away from what's happening around you. So personally, I turn off music. But if you like the music, I would turn it down so you're still able to hear everything, especially when we're nearing the end of a match. Then you want to work your way all the way down to music radios. Again, a situation where if you want to be able to hear everything around you, you could turn this off. If it doesn't bother you, leave it on. But if you want the advantage of being able to hear everything, I would turn that off. Next, you want to go to systems and you'll see crossplay. If you don't want to be playing with PC players, if you're a console player, you can turn this off. But if you don't mind playing with everybody, you can have this on. If it's just turned off, then you're just going to play people on your specific platform. If you're on Xbox, just Xbox, PC, just PC, and PlayStation, just PlayStation. But it's going to give you a lower pool of players, even though right now there's a mass amount of people playing this game. Next, we want to go down to minimap. And the minimap is a very important element. It tells us what's happening around us. Personally, I prefer a larger minimap so I can see more and clearly what's happening around me. So I would keep that as large maybe even medium if you wanted. I think small is too small, but I think medium or large is ideal. Try large, see if you find it okay. If it's too distracting, make it medium, but personally speaking, I think large is the better option. As far as minimap background opacity goes, 90 is fine unless you want it to have no opacity at all and you want to just see the direct image, then you can turn that up to 100. Next, we want to look at view distance on foot, view distance in ground vehicles, and view distance in air. As you can see, the view distance, the higher you put it, the more you'll be able to see on the map. So if you wanted to see the mini-map zoomed out a little bit more, you want to crank this up. Again, this is a preference thing. Maybe on foot at most, you want to go 250. 300 is a little bit extreme because, well, you can only aim so far. Maybe if you were like a sniper, I would say okay, but I would say 250 at most. Everything else, I'd leave the same. Maybe even for a ground vehicle, I would recommend you go 300. But I think that this is a preference-based thing for sure. Whatever suits your gameplay more, but I think there could be an advantage to making the on-foot view distance a little bit higher. And that really does it for settings. I believe that's the most optimal way to set up your game. If you have any tips of your own, feel free to share them down below. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on what made you play better as far as settings went.